Fly fishing has a very special spiritual attraction to me, and it helps guide me through the later years of my life. First, there is the excitement of attracting a fish from the wild to come up to the surface and take your fake fly. You see him quickly snatch the fly because if he weren't quick, he would never be able to catch a real fly. And he's afraid he'll lose it, so he snatches it very quickly. And then he immediately feels the tug of the wild as the fish fights this invisible force from my leader. What must he feel like being jerked around by this force in the wild that he cannot understand, ruining his day just as he thought he was about to have a nice little lunch? But what must he feel like? He just wants out. I want to feel the wild, and I want to pull him out of his universe, bring him into my universe. But all he wants to do is just go back into that safe world that he came from, the stream. I feel the same invisible line tugging me out of the wilderness where I belong and holding me in this synthetic world of accountants and lawyers and banks and operating room schedules and demanding patience and from dinner talk about trusts and wills and drapes and interest rates are slick-sounding politicians asking for money and grinding away. But this is ridiculous. All I really want is to be returned to the wild where I belong, where all of us began, where the rainbow trout is comfortable, and where I am comfortable. I don't know what I'm doing out of my world, living in this synthetic world. Fly fishing is what helps me get there, get to the world where I should be in, helps me get through what Thoreau calls the lives of quiet desperation that so many people live, and he warns us not to live. So the question comes up, why would we spend a whole day in this miserable, cold, rainy, windy weather just to get in touch with these beautiful fish and see them up close? It was so warm and comfortable back at the lodge. Why do humans often literally kill themselves to find beauty and adventure? And why do some humans not possess that human, in my opinion, characteristic? What prompted Columbus and so many others to sail westward to fall off the end of the flat earth? The answer is in the irreproducible natural spotted beauty of this huge Arctic char and the huge spotted silvery blue dorsal fin of the graylings that we caught today in the mist and the rain and the cold and the wind of the Koktuli River. Beautiful and new discoveries drive us all. Why do we make such a long and convoluted journey to catch fish we will release after just a momentary close observation and the obligatory photo? The main question of this portion of my video is, why not just eat them? Wouldn't that be a sporting lunch? And if we think that we're being kind ecologists by letting them go, isn't it more like tormenting them, what we're doing, instead of murdering them? What is the joy in latching onto one of these incredibly powerful, wild, and beautiful creatures and letting them then go back into their universe a few minutes later? I'm out to find out the answer to this question on this trip. All other human conversation seems to me meaningless and pointless compared to discovering who we are as ancient wild beings. We know that we are no different physically and brain power wise from the most primitive and ancient hunter-gatherer people. We just have layers and layers and generations of discovery and invention and cultural change over the last 40,000 years. But what does it feel like to shed those layers and to feel wild again? This is what I call the non-synthetic life. I caught the most amazing rainbow trout I ever remember catching. These rainbows were enormous, 29 inches long, and they took out so much line with such power, the very first one I caught and the second one broke my leader. You literally have to chase them down the river as they pull you upstream and pull the line, and you have to, as they run up the river, you have to run up the river just as fast and watch it ferociously jumping out of the water, either to show you just how powerful it is or to just use that power to shake the hook off. I rather think both is happening. It is a splendid display of power. And you have to just keep the line taut, of course, but not too taut or we'll break for sure. They never seem to run out of energy or fight. Pound for pound, they are the toughest fish I have ever tangled with, and I love, as well as fear, when they jump 2 feet out of the water into the air. This is truly connection with the wild. I often wonder what a fish is thinking. What sort of conscious awareness exists in that tiny little brain? They are clearly making decisions and bold actions with skills way beyond our imagination. Better eyesight, quicker reflexes, clearly better navigational skills. What goes on in those little brains when we pull it up close on the invisible line it cannot even shake loose or see, and we peer into its eyes, snap our picture with it before gently letting it go back to its own, not our universe? Why is it so beautiful and elusive and powerful and quick when we are so ugly and clumsy? I look at it up close for a few glorious seconds of amazement, and it must see in me some sort of ugly monster of a Shrek from outer space. All I see in it is an amazing creature I was fortunately able to fool with my fly and my fly rod. I keep reflecting that in a few hours I will leave this non-synthetic real world and go back to the city with the cement and lighted streets and fast food restaurants, crowds and malls, telephones ringing, accounting meetings, stupid legal meetings, tax meetings, death tax meetings, income tax meetings, my usual 80-hour work week, which employs hundreds of people and helps many thousands of people have children who will become tax-paying citizens, and then I pay 54% of my net after expenses for doing all this work. I think about all this coming up and leaving my beautiful wilderness. I would rather be out here, out of the range of lawyers and accountants and IRS and lying politicians and ungrateful patients, crowds and long lines and monotonous noise of television sets, all the stupidity of ADD-addicted Facebook and Twitter enthusiasts, out of the smog and pollution they create, and out of what Shakespeare would call the slings and arrows, but of modern life. Like the rainbow trout and the Arctic char and the Arctic grayling, I would like to return here to the stream, my simpler universe, where I really do belong. I'd rather be back to the stream like the rainbow trout, back to my home in the wilderness.